Hello Wingspan families. In this week's video we're going to build a spaceship and a lunar landscape. This video is divided into just two sections. The first section, which is about 15 minutes long, is building a spaceship, and then the second shorter section is making the surface of the moon. There is no right way to build a spaceship out of Lego. There are an absolutely infinite number of ways you can build a spaceship. So I am going to show you like a basic approach that I use when I'm starting out thinking about a spaceship. And then I change the approach depending on what special pieces I find in my Lego or what I'm trying to do with my spaceship. But all of my spaceships, even ones that end up looking quite different from each other, usually start with me looking for slopey flat pieces that are triangular or pointy. Even little ones like this can be useful. Now, what I look for generally is I want to find two triangle pieces that match each other, that when you put them together they make like an arrow pointy shape. That means that they can make two opposite wings on a spaceship. Now, if you manage to find more than two of these, if you have 4 or 6, you can use them, you can layer them up, do multiple things with them. As well as wanting wings on your spaceship, you usually want a pointy front on your spaceship. So if you put 2 of these triangles together, or 2 of any triangles that you find, again, I'm going to show you, like, these triangles are slightly different from the ones that I just picked up. This triangle is much bigger. I could build a way bigger spaceship if I had 2 of this. So you can use them to make the point. You can use them to make wings. These pieces here are also good for the pointy part of the ship at the front. And if you don't have triangles for your wings, you can use pieces like this for wings. They make interesting shapes. You could have a wing that sticks out like this at the side. If you had 2 matching of these, those make 2 good wings. So you can see you have a bunch of options there. Once you have picked your triangular and angled pieces, you're going to need, for the middle of your spaceship, you're going to need a plain old boring rectangle or square. You know, the smaller it is, the smaller your spaceship, the bigger it is, the bigger. You can have a long, narrow one. You can have a square one. Again, it really doesn't matter. As you build, you'll see how that decides what shape your spaceship is. So, I'm going to say, for sake of argument, I'm taking this one. Take those 2 away. And then I'm going to take these 2 wings here. I'm going to put those ones out of the way. So, this is how my wings are going to be against this. Now, so I'm going to stick my wings up on top of the edges like that. Now, at the front, I can go straight for putting this piece in front of this, and then I could use a slopey piece. Because at the front, like the wings are flat. The triangle makes the whole wing shape. But your point at the front, you want it to be pointy in all directions, like to slope down, to slope in from the sides. The pointier it is, the better it looks. So this is one very simple way of going about it. Here we have our flat pointy piece, and here we have a slope on top. Now, a bit more complicated is if you have any pieces that are a bit like these pieces. Now, they could be longer than these. Often these stretch back and are 6 studs long. This is 4 studs long in total. And they might be curvier. These ones are very like sharp edged because these are old Lego pieces from the 1980s. But if you have a lot of new Lego, you might have some nice curved pieces that come to the same sort of a point shape. But if you have pieces like these, you can use them on the front of your ship. Now, again, using this piece on top, then you would want to put something underneath it as well, you know, that connects it better. Otherwise, it's just kind of wiggling off the top of your flat base. If you put something underneath, just like that. This one has these type of hard edges that don't have bites out of them, so I cannot put this one underneath. I can put this one or this one underneath because they match it better. So once you've done that, if you have the underneath version of this piece, one that has studs on top and the slopes go downwards, you can stick it underneath. But again, I'm going to change my colors here so you can see really clearly. To make that work, you need to have a flat that fits more or less in the middle of those two pieces, like this. And that gives you a really nice matched up pointy front. I'm just going to show you again, it does not need to be exactly, your flat does not need to be exactly the same shape as this. You could use a flat like this. And that would give you a little bit of a gap at the front, which you could fill in with a 1x2 piece or with circles. You could put in transparent circles that are shiny so that it looks as if it has front lights. Okay, one way or another, you should be able to make a point for your ship. Whether it is this type of point here that I showed you at the beginning, or whether it is this type of point, or whether you have some completely different piece. If you look at this ship here that I made, this is a different piece yet again being used. I have this piece here, and then I've stuck another pointy thing on front of it. So there are many ways to make that point at the front. Take this one. If you look at this one, then I've used some little slopes on the sides to kind of bring the shape in a little bit. Whereas here we just have a sharp divide between that front bit and the sides. So those are things to think about. Again, on this one you can see I've used these pieces to make side pieces that slope in a little bit. You want to leave space in the middle for your minifigure to sit. Generally your minifigure needs a 2x4 space to sit in because his butt needs a 2x2 space to stick down onto. But then if he's going to be able to move his arms, you need to have two studs empty on either side of him for him to do that. Now, once you've gotten this far, I know it doesn't look finished, but this is really the core of your spaceship. After this, it's decoration, addition, finding ways to take it up a notch. So one of the things you can do is build an engine on the back. Now, an engine can be any old sort of a thing. Like if you look at this one that I made, so I have a piece with a Technic hole in it, and then a Technic pin, actually a little grey wheel, and then a shiny piece that's sticking out of the end of my long Technic pin. And that looks quite like a motor of some sort. You might have like a proper fire piece, like this, and then you just have to find a way to make holes that stick backwards. Usually the tricky bit about building a motor is you want something that points backwards from your ship. So like for example, if you have a brick with a crisscross hole in it, that's really simple. There you go, you put a flame in it. If you have a bracket piece, you can hang it on the back of your ship. You might have built up a little wall at the back as well, depending like whether you want to be able to carry cargo in your ship or, like often I end up building edges of some sort around my ship. You can see this guy has walls. This guy, of course, has a big windscreen. We'll come back to that subject in a second. But if you put this piece here, then you have lots of options. Like, look, I have some nice circular pieces I've stuck on the end of those studs, and I've ended it with this blue bit here. I think that makes an interesting motor shape. And of course, you might have like proper engine pieces. Engine pieces come in all different sorts. There are ones that are designed to stick on top like this. There are ones, these ones that I have, go on underneath, and I like to put them underneath the wings like this. So now my guy has an engine in the middle and an engine under each wing. So his ship is starting to look more exciting than it did at the start. Now, like I said, there's a question of windows. I can't really give you much guideline about windows because it depends so much on what you have in your house. Like for example, if you were using this piece and you had a nice regular car window, which I don't have with me here right now, you could stick the car window right on here and then he would have a little windscreen to look through. You know, I have a piece like this, which could go on like this. I'd need to build up a little bit to do that. I'm going to leave it open for the moment. It's easiest to build a spaceship that you leave open. Even if you do put a window on, it's easier not to build up and try and do a roof. Sometimes I like to say that my spaceship is a Star Wars spaceship, and I do just one simple thing in order to make it be a Star Wars spaceship. In Star Wars, there are a whole bunch of spaceships where the wings fold up when they land. And you can do that by any sort of hinging device that you can make. In this case, I have used a clip, a sideways clip, and then a handle, and I stick the handle into the clip, and now I can bend it up and down. And again, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because it totally depends what Lego you have. You may have something you can use for hinges, or you may not. But if you know you have hinges, you could do this. You take the wings off, put a hinge on where the wings were attached, and then you put the wings onto the hinge. And now my guy has a Star Wars style spaceship with folding wings. Now I think he does need to make the back of his ship look more elegant though. Plain regular slopey pieces are really, really useful when you're trying to improve the design of your spaceship. Do you remember I said earlier you can put slopes at the sides of the front, you know, behind whatever type of pointy piece you have at your front. And then I think at the back, I'm going to have the sides of his spaceship slope inwards. So there we go. Now the sides slope in. Now my ship is nearly finished. I'm going to tidy it up a little bit and add some final details, make bits of it solider. So remember I said I thought I should put some lights on the front. So I'm going to put a shiny piece on there. And then here at the sides, these wing pieces are not very secure because they're only held on by one stud at the hinge. And there's a gap here. So I'm going to fill in the gap with a one stud plate on each side. And then I'm going to do a grill on top of each of those so that holds these in place just a little bit better than they were, and also I think it looks a bit better. Now at the back I decided that these slopes would look better if the colors matched more, so I'm going to trade out some of my slopey pieces, change them around a bit. I think I'm going to go for a blue stripe in the middle. I have white at the front, and then I'll have white at the back. And then over here, I want to put a tail piece up on top here, but first I need to make a level base for it. You see, these go up one level from these studs, so I'm going to take a 1x2 flat piece, just stick it in behind here. So now I have a 2x2 shape that's totally level, and I'm going to put a square brick on top of it. And now I have a solid base to stick my wing piece, my tail piece. Maybe you have something you can use for a tail piece, maybe you don't. Again, this very much depends on what pieces you have. But this, oh, and one final touch. I don't have a proper big car windshield, but I do have a little panel like this. So I'm going to use that to suggest a windshield at the front. And this is my nearly finished spaceship. What do you think is missing? The thing that is missing is underneath. You see my engine hangs down at the bottom, and then I have this bit here. Now, your bottom could be totally flat. I think that works fine for a spaceship, but you might also want to think about putting wheels underneath to be landing gear. And again, what sort of wheels you put on depends very much what you actually have in your Lego box at home. I'm going to use a single wheel like that, and then a double wheel just behind it. And I think, and then I test to see they're about the same level. And let's turn it over. Yes, that works now. He has landing gear. And that is my finished spaceship. My guy has landed on the moon now. He's in space. Now, this spaceboard, obviously you probably don't have one like this. I only have a couple like this. But that's okay, because we're going to build our own planetary surface. What makes this board look like outer space? It's the craters, right? The moon is covered in craters because it doesn't have a protective atmosphere like Earth. And so it gets hit very easily by asteroids, and they make big holes in the surface called craters. Now, we can easily build our own Lego crater. And again, it doesn't matter what colors you work in here. Now, if you think about it, there are planets that are red, there are planets that are blue, there are planets that are yellow, there are planets that are green. So I like to make my crater and my base be the same color. And you can do that by choosing a baseboard that you have and finding bricks in the same color, or you could do it by covering a baseboard with plates and bricks of the color that you want to use, and then building a crater up on top of that. Or you can decide that you don't mind if it's all a mixture of colors. Not all planets are just one color. Earth is blue and green. I'm going to show you how to build a crater like this, and in this case I'm going to use a different color background than the color I'm building a crater out of, partly so that you can see it more easily on the video. Now, to build a basic crater, the easiest way to do it is to start with 4 2x4 bricks and 4 2x2 bricks. And then you take one of the 2x4 bricks and you position it. And then you want to take another 2x4 brick and you're going to put it so that there's one stud diagonally in between the corners. And you see, you're going to keep doing that. You want to make like a square without its corners, the start of a circle, right? And you have one stud diagonally in between the corners. And then you take your square 2x2 bricks and you put them into that gap. So now you have an O shape. And then to make it more cratery, we're going to build up. You used 2 stud wide bricks on the bottom. Now use 1 stud wide bricks and try and go around so that mainly what you're doing is building on the inside edge of the crater and not the outside. You want to leave the outside studs open because craters are straight up on the inside and slopey on the outside. So you see, this is my crater, and you can see how it compares to the crater on the Lego plate. You see, this has straight up walls on the inside, and then it slopes on the outside. And that is what we have recreated with bricks. And the nice thing about making your own moonscape board is that you can vary your craters. You can make some bigger, some smaller. You can put them all over the board wherever you want. Right now I have 2 that are exactly the same size, and I'm going to make a smaller one. And it doesn't matter if your circles are not absolutely exact as well. If you don't have exactly the bricks I showed, that's okay. So here's my small crater. And to build up the edges of it, I'm going to steal some of the bricks from this crater here, which means that this crater will end up looking a little bit broken, which I think is good as well, because not all craters stay perfectly crater shaped all of the time. So now you see it's starting to look like a more mixed up cratery space surface. You can keep going and build as many craters and as big a lunar landscape as you want to. And then you should think about, what do your astronauts do when they arrive at the moon? If you look here, I have built a little rock sampling car. that is traveling across the surface of the moon, and it's picking up rocks and carrying them in its back. This is its arm where it picks them up, and you can see one of the astronauts. He's studying the rock that the car has found. And over here, the other astronaut, she has found a whole bunch more interesting rocks, and she is using her remote control to signal to the little rock collecting car to come over and help her. I hope you enjoyed this video. I wonder if your spaceship looked anything like mine by the end, or if your spaceship looked entirely different. Are there any aliens on your planet that your spacemen went to? What else could you build to go on the lunar surface?